Unlock your dream property with Meeks Realty Group, where Rich the Realtor makes real estate dreams a reality. Whether it's residential or commercial, we've got Charleston to Huntington covered. Your key to exceptional real estate experiences start here. Meeks Realty Group. Contact us at meeks.us.
This program do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 580 WCHS, its employees, or WVRC Media. From the studios of WVRC Media, the country, the United States of America, the state, West Virginia, the city, Charleston. This is the Dave Allen Show on 580 Live. And your host.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
He's kind of a big deal.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
Dave Allen.
And good Tuesday morning to you. Welcome to the show. Ryan Nicholson is our producer today. Bigley Piggly Wiggly hotline 304-345-5858. Tony the Taylor text 304-935-5008. The Dave Allen Show on 580 Live, brought to you by Thornhill Auto Group, including Thornhill Ford Lincoln on the Thornhill Motor Mile, US 119 in Chapmanville. Drive home in a new 2024 Ford Escape with 2.9% APR for up to 72 months, plus a $1,000 trade assist rebate. Must qualify for all offers through Ford Financial. See Thornhill for all details. We do the show from the Par-Mar Store studio. If there's not a Par-Mar store near you now, there will be soon. And get ready for another edition of the Great Gas Giveaway. Par-Mar teaming up with all of our stations here in the building to give away 500 gallons of free gasoline. You can register at any Kanawha County Par-Mar location or at various other places throughout the valley, including A to Z Outlet in St. Albans, Trojan Landing Marine of Charleston, and Pearson Legal Services of Kanawha City, just to name a few. Winner will be drawn July 27th during a special event at A to Z Outlet in St. Albans, starting at 10 a.m. Phone calls to the Dave Allen Show at service of Bigley Piggly Wiggly on Spring Street. Texting services provided by West Virginia's finest men's store, Tony the Taylor, Virginia Street in Charleston. Visit bestmastertailor.com. And I got a text from my man Tony a little bit earlier. Of course, they're going to be on vacation at Tony the Taylor July the 18th through the 27th, but he is getting ready for his big concert Saturday the 27th at the Red Carpet Pavilion with the guitar legend Gary Hoey. Let me see if I get this right here. The Summer Jam is now free general admission. That would be great. VIP meet and greets are still available. All right, there you go. And we'll be giving away those next week, the VIP. So we'll have more information on that as we get a little bit closer to the show. All right, so let's get into it. I'm going to touch a little bit later on the Charleston City Council meeting last night. Interesting, to say the least, as it has to do with the whole issue with cannabis in the city. It's not a whole lot happened. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later on. Plus, of course, the Republican National Convention continues out in Milwaukee. Got underway yesterday. I'll have my thoughts on that. We now know who President Trump's vice president will be if he's elected. And his running mate is now Ohio Senator J.D. Vance. So we'll get into that a little bit later on. And live from the RNC, State Auditor and candidate for Attorney General, our friend J.B. McCuskey is out there. We're going to talk to J.B. a little bit later on, live from Milwaukee coming up. Plus, a whole lot of other stuff, too. Bigley Piggly Wiggly hotline 304-345-5858. Tony the Taylor text 304-935-5008. I want to welcome back to the show, though, our Senate Finance Chair, Eric Tarr. Senator, good morning.
Good morning.
I invited you back on the show today, and for the record, it hasn't even been a week since you were last on talking about the state's budget surplus, the governor's proposed tax cuts, etc. After you exited the building last week, there were several texts to the show, which you heard on your way out. Thanks for listening, by the way.
Absolutely. Good show.
Well, let's don't get crazy. All right. And you text me, and I think your wording was, said, I would love to come back and address those texts. So I'm going to try to set the stage here for the senator. Senator Tarr is on the show now, and he is open to taking your phone calls. So if you would like to call and address Senator Tarr directly, you can do so. The hotline from Bigley Piggly Wiggly is 304-345-5858, or you can text, courtesy of Tony the Taylor, 304-935-5008. I would prefer to take calls, but we'll take texts. Whatever, just get them in here. So I think did I set that up enough, sir?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right.
Happy to talk to anybody who wants to talk.
Before we get to that, though, I do want to give you a chance to express your thoughts on the attempted assassination of former President Trump, the Republican nominee for president.
I was angry, disgusted, relieved. like most of America, I think that somebody within that security detail, whether it's from the top that set it up and gave him the limited resources relative to what he needed, or whether it was just truly incompetence of the team directly that had that area secured, somebody needs to be held accountable for that. Thank God President Trump survived, and I really do believe that's God's hand in there doing that. I've had a lot of conversations. People ask me about President, and I'll tell them, I said, it's if they can't put him in prison, they'll probably try to kill him. And, incompetence is almost as much as pulling the trigger. So it's I hope he makes it all the way through. I really do. I hope that protection stays up and God stays at his shoulder and gets him through and helps bring his country back to God.
This sounds like the theme I had on when I had Tony Hodge on the show yesterday. That's kind of exactly what he said. And I'll say this, and I'm certainly not a security expert by any stretch of the imagination. I don't pretend to know what those people do, but it does seem like it was a massive, massive breakdown. And maybe major political campaigns, whether it's Trump, whether it's Biden, whatever, may need to not look at going to smaller towns that maybe aren't equipped for this, because there's a lot of blame going around, and some of it has to do with the local police there. But at the end of the day, the president or whoever it is still the responsibility of the Secret Service. But, I mean, maybe they should just – my thoughts, maybe they should just have these things in towns that are better equipped to have them.
Well, but it's one of the things I really like about President Trump is he comes out to the people. He gets right out there.
I get that, yeah.
He gets out and he's there. It's I've been within arm's distance of President Trump. It's a big deal for an individual citizen to go in and be that close to our leaders. So no, I appreciate they do that. I think it's perfectly you're able to secure those areas. They could have done that with drones. I love to shoot guns. 150-yard shot is not a hard shot. Mm-hmm. It's just not. And you lay down and have a rest, you can punch out quarters all day long at 150 yards with a good rifle. Yeah. So it's to me that was just I'm not a security expert, but that seems like an absolute no-brainer. You don't leave a roof uncovered.
Well, and especially since it seems that there were people in the crowd going, "Hey, look."
Yeah, and it's not just the president. There was a man who lost his life with his family. Yeah. So you have people out there that are going out to express their support of a political candidate. Sure. Yeah. And they're risking their lives to do it. Yeah. And somebody allowed that to happen, and they should be held accountable.
No arguments here. The Dave Allen Show on 580 Live brought to you part by Bridge Valley. If you're interested in improving your company's IT workforce, please know Bridge Valley offers custom-tailored IT training to bridge the skills gap. At Bridge Valley, train for little or no cost with a 50-50 salary match. Bridge Valley can also supply skilled graduates and apprenticeships for your company. Visit bridgevalley.edu/apprenticeships today. All right. So one of the texts of the show last week stated that we don't actually have a budget surplus.
Oh, yeah, we absolutely do.
Okay, explain.
So it's one of the things, and I understand somebody saying we don't actually have. I've heard that before, and I think that if you just stick in the old ways of the way we used to budget, that's probably the way you're going to look at it. But that's not the way West Virginia budgets, and how we changed our budget, especially this past year, but we've done it a few years before too. We now have really essentially two revenue estimates. And the first revenue estimate is, what does it take to afford base government? So you look at it as a business. What did it take me to afford the services of my business to provide those last year? And I'll look and say, okay, well, we have to budget for at least that relative to whatever needs we have. And if we get more revenues, these are things we would like to do. But here's what they would cost. Well, we looked at the state that way. Instead of just taking the governor's revenue estimate, which is a lot of times a political number as well. So if you really know how the finance negotiations work up there, a governor's negotiation authority lies heavily in the revenue estimate he sets. So it can be a little fictitious as well. So what we've done this year, instead of taking the governor's revenue estimate and saying, okay, we're going to spend to the revenue estimate, we looked at last year's budget and said we're going to spend to last year's budget plus a little bit of growth. And the reason only a plus a little bit of growth is we put a tax cut in with a trigger that says if you have so much growth, it's going to reduce your revenue. If we have things that come in beyond that, we consider those one-time funds. So we have a revenue estimate that we have to have for base funding, which is your perpetual cost. It's like your every month electric bill, for instance. Mm-hmm. It's a base cost. Mm-hmm. And then you have things that are one-time expenses. If you got one-time money, because anything beyond that we're going to consider a one-time dollar because it fluctuates so heavily, and we are holding and controlling the spending at the base level, Those one-time dollars should go to one-time expenses. And so the way we got into being able to do that was holding flat budgets for 4 years in a row, going in, changing regulations, getting some economic growth in here, and we had significant growth in severance, which is a roller coaster ride in West Virginia on severance revenue. So you actually you got a true surplus in the sense that you're using those for what surplus dollars should be used to beyond what you would normally have for a budget. And part of that is looking at, can we afford tax cuts, which become part of that reduction in your availability to fund your base. And that's where the conversation's really getting about the tax cuts and triggers and those type of things, is because you have to look at the base side versus what is truly one-time money.
And on the governor's proposed tax cuts, you said on the show last week that obviously you're not against tax cuts. No one in their right mind wants to pay more taxes. No politicians is going to say, hey, we need more taxes. But I think my takeaway was, not putting words in your mouth, that get the feeling that you're all for it, but we got to pump the brakes a little bit on it. You and others have said that too, not just you. So.
Absolutely. Well, there is so much spending right now that's already on the books that's been passed over this past several years, because a lot of times when you'll pass a spending bill, you'll phase in the spend. So it won't happen all in 1 year. It'll happen over 2 or 3 fiscal years. I'll give you an example. One of them is the Third Grade Success Act. We passed what is ultimately $100 million per year in base spending 2 years ago. But it phased in each year. So we did first grade first. That's $33 million and change. Second grade, $33 million and change. And now we're getting into this coming fiscal year, third grade, which is another $33 million. We passed that bill 3 years ago. There's bills all over the place like that. It ends up being $100 million against your base. So it's a $100 million expense that you're going to have now in perpetuity, at least, and expenses in government tend to grow, as we all know. And then beyond that, we've got a lot of other bills that are that same way. So, I was going through review this morning because I got some more meetings after your show today. Mm-hmm. And so I was going to have these discussions and looking at, and it's around this tax cut is, okay, what are we really looking at? And right now, we can see that we have obligations of about $650 million ahead of us in fiscal year 25 and or 26 coming up in here. Part of that, we have a $88 million tax decrease coming from the trigger. So the base revenue is going to be taken, which is great. I am thrilled we were able to do that. That trigger put that out there. What it says is West Virginia's economy grew so much that it exceeded the rate of inflation, and we're giving that money, not giving the money, we're letting the taxpayer keep that money. It's their money. So they're keeping that. The thing is that if we go beyond that economic growth, we're going to go back and have to start cutting something. There's about of surplus dollars, I think there's $589 million, I think is where it sits right now. There's about $650 million of growth that we can see in expenditures. So if we want to go in and do additional tax cuts, then let's go figure out where else we can reduce the spending to afford it. Or let's go figure out where we can do a revenue swap that makes the tax cut meaningful for economic development so that we have a bigger tax base going forward. And that's been the philosophy we've had throughout.
Talking with Senate Finance Chair Eric Tarr, we need to take a break. I've asked him to stick around for another segment here. If you have a question or comment for Eric Tarr, it's open lines. Call him. Biggly Piggly Wiggly hotline 304-345-5858. Tony the Taylor text 304-935-5008. Do have a couple texts waiting. We'll get to those here in a couple of moments. The Dave Allen Show on 580 Live brought to you part by your hometown baseball team, the Charleston Dirty Birds. The Birds begin a 3-game road series in Lexington tonight. They're back at Gomart Ballpark Friday night to begin a weekend series against Gastonia. For tickets, promotions, schedules, Dirty Birds gear, and more, visit dirtybirdsbaseball.com. Back after this on the Voice of Charleston, WCHS.
Brought to you by the Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses. Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses bring first-class businesses to your community.
Welcome to Poca Valley, where we've been in business since 1908. Today, we serve Roane, Kanawha, Putnam, and surrounding counties. We believe you deserve banking that provides friendly customer service. For all of your financial needs, stop by one of our 8 convenient locations. Call us at 844-782-2651 or visit us online at PocaValleyBank.com. Poca Valley, where relationships matter.
Member FDIC. Your Putnam County Assessor's Office is mandated to ensure your real estate is evaluated properly and fairly. This year, their field personnel will be in the Taze Valley, Curry, and Hurricane districts to revisit homeowners. Plus, new construction in the county will be assessed. They will be in marked vehicles and will have photo ID and business cards. If you have any questions about this process, visit their website at putnamcoassessor.com. That's putnamcoassessor.com.
Red, white, and vroom! Gear up for incredible savings at Thornhill Ford Lincoln on the Thornhill Motor Mile. Hey, it's Sydney, and right now at Thornhill, you can drive home a new 2024 Ford Escape with 2.9% APR for up to 72 months. Plus a $1,000 trade assist rebate. Shop online anytime at thornhillford.net or visit us on US 119 in Chapmanville. Discover why Thornhill Ford Lincoln is your ultimate destination for unbeatable deals and exceptional service on the road to total savings. Must qualify for all offers through Ford Financial. See Thornhill for all details.
.923, Special Olympics embodies the true spirit of sportsmanship, not merely about winning medals. It's about being a part of a team, practicing and competing together. The joy and fulfillment derived from these experiences are immeasurable as athletes find their confidence and self-worth through the shared pursuit of victory. West Virginia Enriched, in collaboration with Huntington, invites you to witness the transformative power of Special Olympics. See a video highlighting the Special Olympics at facebook.com/580WCHS. Biggly Piggly Wiggly hotline 304-345-5858. Tony the Taylor text 304-935-5008. Senate Finance Chair Eric Tarr is here. Again, we had Senator Tarr on the show last week. Got a lot of texts after he left. So let's just have you back and speak for two segments today. So you're welcome. Open lines, call, ask the senator anything, or text us. And I do have a couple of texts that are not really related to the budget, but you said anything, right?
Anything goes.
All right. The Christian Trump cultists call the myths divine intervention. I call it dumb luck. What God would protect a child molester? Trump Christians have screws loose, says a texter.
I'm happy to respond to that.
Okay.
If you go back and you read the Bible and you believe it to have facts in it, as I do, God has risen and fell nations over millennia, and He's risen and fell leaders over millennia. And if you go back through and look at the leaders that were so significant that God's Word has it in there for us to look to for all time, David was no saint. If you go back and look at King David, you look at other kings there, the character of those men, they were men that God brought up. They were not faultless. We're not looking to put saints. We're not looking for sainthood in our leaders. What we're looking at is somebody who can lead a country and has a moral foundation. We're all sinners. We all have weaknesses. We all have faults. We're all human. We build people up to be a lot more than they are, but really when it comes right down to it, we are still all human. So, and was divine intervention here? In my mind, absolutely yes. I think that, I think that if you look at where this country has headed in a rapid pace, especially under the Biden administration, getting away from family, getting away from really beliefs in what God's Word's told us, and not only just going away from it, but being completely antithetical to it. I think that there's an awakening that's needed. And I think that God's hand can be seen in a lot of things we do. If you're a person of faith, you'll see things in your daily life you pray for, and when it happens, it's nothing you did. That was the hand of God that was intervening. And I think He demonstrated that in a very large way at this one. When you see a picture of the bullet, when it's coming at his head, and it's millimeters away, find another spot where that's ever been captured that says, this is a miracle. It's a 150-yard shot. It was not a hard shot. To have that roof exposed, it was left open to do. So, I think God's hand's there strongly.
Text says, here's a question that Senator Tarr will not answer. I bet he does. Don't dodge and address all aspects. Explain how ending the tradition of a peaceful transfer of power, encouraging an attack on the Capitol, and then ratifying it after the fact by calling the January 6 criminals political prisoners and hostages that are, quote, very special, must be pardoned, is not a threat to democracy.
I don't believe that Trump actually called for an attack on the Capitol. I think that when you go back and look at what happened there was a lot of the investigation handled by, again, the Biden regime. A lot of that evidence.
But you don't think
now,
he could have stopped it, though, Eric? Senator?
I think he requested more security. Look at what had just happened here while he's running for president, and while he's under attack, being charged for everything they can find to charge to try to put him in a prison, under a prison for the rest of his life, or at least until they can get to the next election.
One of the charges dismissed yesterday, the documents.
Exactly. So you look at all the false claims. You look at how hard they've come at him. And you look at, while he's on the campaign trail with thousands of people at risk around him, and they allow a security failure to come in to try to take him out with a gun now. Because that stuff's not working. The court stuff's not working. He's going to make it through the election.
So you think this was a bigger plan?
I think it's the same characters at play. That in that time when he's requesting, hey, you need to have more security in D.C., this event's going to be big, and they don't give it. When you have Nancy Pelosi in a car saying, hey, you know what, that was me, I pulled it off. That you can't lay all that at Trump. The people of America are fed up. Go back and look at that election. Find somebody that popular against somebody who's so unpopular, running out of his mom's basement, pulls off an election. We have to say, what the heck?
But, the courts after courts, though, Senator, have said that there was no election fraud.
Well, okay, let's talk about that. I know this is an old discussion.
Right.
Pennsylvania. Elections are held, state laws handle elections. Pennsylvania extended the time during an election that they would take in ballots. I have friends who live in Pennsylvania that were going through and had their ballots marked with a big red R when they would go in there. And was like, what's going on? It was odd to them. Mm-hmm. So if they're going to go in and keep counting votes until they get the result they want, and state law allows it, is it fraud? If they change the rules in the middle of the game.
But why hasn't it been found to be this case in the court system, Senator?
Because it's not fraud at that point. Because what it is that we here in West Virginia, we pass election laws. There's almost every session you're going to find in laws that go in there where we do something to change election law. What we do in West Virginia is we won't affect that change in law during an election process, during an election cycle. Okay, so we'll make it prospective out for an election that's beyond anything that we're considering now. What states did, and Pennsylvania was one of the worst for it, is in the middle of the game they changed the law. And so it's if you're going to play baseball and you're down 3 runs, but you can get to first base every time, let's make it to where you score when you get to first base. That's what Pennsylvania did. They did it with their law. It's not fraud because they have the authority to do that as a state.
Okay. Let me get back to the budget. Will the senator acknowledge that the years of flat budgets, if not caused, at least contributed to the prison guard crisis and the foster care and DHHR crisis? I know you want to address DHHR anyway, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'd love to address that. So one of the things that we found in working on state finances is that many of the things that we appropriate $1 to does not go there. And so, in other words, we handle about $20 billion in state and federal and special revenue that comes into the state each year. And people have decision-making with those dollars throughout those agencies down several levels deep. Secretaries have the ability to transfer funds. And so what will happen is in the legislature, we'll go in and we'll appropriate a tax dollar to a given end. And then what happens is that given end is subverted, and it'll go somewhere else to fund something that if we knew what it was doing, we probably never would have appropriated the dollar to. We're finding that all over the place. So one of the things we've been trying to do is to go back and explode a budget. What I mean explode a budget is say you got a line item in a budget, and it's a $20 million line item. Well, now we make that line, we explode it into 10 lines. And so now you might have each one that's $1 million or $2 million, but we know what that intended purpose is for, and it's held to that. So the way that I have looked at this and a lot of the things we've learned is that as a society, there are people we have a moral obligation to take care of. We have a moral obligation to take care of foster children. We have a moral obligation to take care of people with special needs and don't have anybody take care of them and the family. You can go through and you can name a lot of that. But what's happened is that pet projects, it's happened over decades and decades and decades. You get these little empires built within the agencies where they can take care of friends, they can take care of special things that they hold dear to them because of those liberties they have with those funds. And the states become now, it's that people look at the state to be everything for everybody. Well, what that does is it takes away from your ability to do a couple things that are critical. One, is to get the economy grown to a spot that where you have a tax base that can afford to take care of those moral obligations of a society. And then 2 is that when you actually get down to the budgeting side of it, when you're trying to be everything to everybody with a tax dollar, when you're taking care of able-bodied individuals who could go to work and they don't, but they live off the state, they take away from that foster child who needs the state's help. So what we're doing right now, and it's painful, is you have to expose it. Because, by golly, they don't just come out and wave the flag and say, hey, it's right here.
Right.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You have to expose it. And the way you expose it is you go in and you make cuts that then they come out screaming, whoa, 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 we don't have money to fund X, Y, or Z. Well, why don't you? It was appropriated. Well, it had been moved from here to there. And then we go in and we start trimming that down. That's the process we're going right through now in breaking up DHHR. Do I think that the state underfunded prisons to the point that it caused harm to a prisoner? No, I do not. I think that when you go in and you look at the operations of any of our agencies, we have given the funds that are sufficient to run operations throughout the state in good capacity, and we have the ability to go in the middle of a fiscal year, any given time, when there is a crisis, to go in and say, hey, this is happening and we need money. We can put money there that day, and the only reason we can do that is because we've been fiscally responsible to have the funds there to do it. Go back probably 12, 15 years, couldn't happen. Absolutely could not happen. And the reason it couldn't happen is the state didn't have any money. The reason we have money now is because we've held flat budgets, which has made government come in and tell us where they need more money instead of just spending it, and then coming in and trying to give us a crisis in order to justify the money. Now they got to show us. We don't just throw money at problems. An agency comes in and says we're having a problem in prisons. You know what we did? We had the governor's office. We had the secretaries within corrections. We had the directors within corrections. We had the House leadership, and we had the Senate leadership, and we put them all down in the Senate President's conference room, and we said, okay, let's go through your systems. Let's find out how much you really need. So when we go through and look at all that stuff, the difference in request versus what you find and then you solve the problem was 50% of the requested money. So we overfund incompetence, and we've done it for decades. And we're trying to fight that. It's a slow process.
26 minutes away from 10, the Dave Allen Show on 580 Live, brought to you part by Brightway Insurance, the Mays Agency. They now offer small business insurance to the 4 major carriers: the Hartford, Travelers, Progressive, and Next. Call or stop by and see John and Sherry Mays today, 3860 Tays Valley Road, Suite 1 in Hurricane, 304-814-2509, or visit brightwaymays.com. Text says, please have Senator Tarr explain Trump's moral center.
You know, I think I can't speak for Donald Trump. I know that in order to be able to have the family life and family support he has, and I'm looking at for how my perspective, and I think you should find Trump's moral center. His family has not diverted from him. And this whole time, you have a guy that, by all accounts, would have been somebody we celebrated in the private sector life. He built himself up, and his dad built their empire, came up, and then he decided to step into the country's governance at a sacrificial level, and I say that because he puts all that at risk. And so you take somebody that you see an American dream happen with, you see a family that surrounds him, that sticks with him through thick and thin. I think his moral center is his family. And I say that because you see how closely they've been to him and supported their dad through multiple felony charges, through a felony conviction, through assassination attempts, through character assassination attempts. The people that love him and know him have stayed there close to him and support him. So I would say his moral center is his family.
You answered this last week, but we got another text about it. I'll see if your mind's changed, okay? Is Senator Tarr interested in the state Senate president's role, and would he accept it if offered to him?
Those are good questions. So there's, I want to say presently, we are still working on projects that have been in process for years. And they're big things that we're working on still yet that need to be completed by the time we get into next session. President Blair has been instrumental in a lot of those processes. Of course, he lost his election. And it's my hope that Senate President Blair sticks around to see that the leadership of those projects all the way into when we get into January. And I think he's doing that. He's up there. President Blair's the Capitol day, and he's working. With some of the meetings got to go over there. You wouldn't know the guy lost his election today when you're with him. So there's still a team around all that. Going forward, he's not going to be there. So we have to have a new Senate president. So and here's the things that I think that we're going to see. We know we're not going to have the same Senate president. We know we don't have the same health chairman. We know we don't have the same judiciary chairman. So when those positions move, those committees change. So you're completely shuffling the deck in the Senate right now because of those leadership changes. And we have several people within the caucus who have expressed interest in Senate president. I do believe that I could fill that role. I've been very, very close to it. I've been very, very close to decision-making from the finance chair seat. In my private life, I've run organizations. I've ran statewide organizations. I've run multiple businesses. A president and CEO is a title I'm very accustomed to.
So I'm hearing that you are very interested in becoming Senate president.
I'm hearing what I'm saying is if the caucus says I'm the person that should be up there to lead them, then I'll do that. But it's going to have to be something where the caucus says this is what's right for West Virginia.
All right, let me get to this one, and I know you have to get to the Capitol. When will the legislature realize that maintaining a modern infrastructure and economy isn't sustainable in very rural West Virginia? I.e., if Putnam County maintained its own roads using tax dollars from citizens of Putnam County, I'd have better roads than I do now. It's an unfortunate but real situation. Coal no longer props up. We have to change. Senator's view.
Yeah, no, I think there's some truth in that statement in that coal no longer props us up. I think we're still an energy state. You know, when you go in and you look at how much Severance does contribute across all the Severances, there's still that there, but it's nothing we can rely on. Senate President and I have said this for a long time, is that severance tax needs to be the gravy, and our diverse economy, which we're trying to build within West Virginia, which I think people are seeing happen right now as manufacturing coming back into the state, and a lot of our tech sectors are growing now in the state. As that begins to happen, that diversification of an economy gives more stability for being able to do things with infrastructure. We've done hundreds of millions of dollars appropriations into roads alone out of general revenue over the past 4 or 5 years. And I think the smallest appropriation we made was $50 million out of general revenue fund. Normally roads are funded like gas taxes, registration, things like that. Special revenue. It's not tax dollars directly to what you pay from income tax, sales tax, those type of things. So when we appropriated general fund into it, it's unique in that I think the largest appropriation that West Virginia had ever seen out of general fund to highways was $12 million before we put the first $50 million. We've done multiple $125 and $150 million funds year after year out of the general fund. So we're starting to see that. You only get that through that economic growth. You do not have those one-time dollars available to you if we don't have surplus. And so and that's what we've been applying it to. So I think we're going to get there. I don't think you can do it all at once. And West Virginia has incredible infrastructure needs. They've been dilapidated for decades, and so it's going to take time.
All right, let me do this one, and then we gotta go. Dave, Mr. Tarr, the state still wastes so much money. Users getting desktop printers while having huge lease printers nearby. Users getting 2 computers, having to pay $80 for an item on contract while it's $30 on the shelf retail. So much waste. Sounds like somebody that may have some experience in state government there.
Yeah, and
give me 30 seconds on this if you can.
Purchasing is an issue. We know that purchasing is an issue in West Virginia. We also know that contracts are an issue within West Virginia. One of the first bills I ran up there when came in the Senate was something to go in and take the protections away from incumbent vendors to West Virginia. So you say you're selling radio advertising state of West Virginia, and you go in and you write your contract, and the request for proposal is written just so Dave Allen, and he's the only one that can do that. Once you get there, you know it. You can keep drafting that way, so Dave Allen never loses that contract. West Virginia has a history of that. And so some of the things that we've done is go in and try to take away the protection from incumbent vendors so that there's competition for selling to the state and being vendors to the state. But there's a lot more controls needed beyond that as well.
All right. Senator Tarr, we got to leave it there. I know you got to get to the Capitol. Appreciate you being here, man.
Thanks for having me on again.
Thanks a lot. The Dave Allen Show on 580 Live, brought to you in part by Pinnacle Consultants. Pinnacle offers a 4-phase assessment for your properties: inspection, sampling, and analysis, comprehensive reporting, and management planning. Visit pinnaclecorp.net, because what you don't know can hurt you. We are going to send you to the Republican National Convention next. We're back after this on the Voice of Charleston, WCHS.
Brought to you by the Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses. Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses want to thank you for shopping locally.
Are you changing jobs or gearing up for retirement? Don't navigate your financial journey alone. At 4th Avenue Financial, we specialize in guiding individuals through life's transitions. From optimizing your retirement savings to managing your investments, we're here to provide expert advice every step of the way. Schedule your free consultation with John Burdett and take control of your financial future today. 4thavenuefinancial.com.
Securities offered through Jenny B. Cole Financial Incorporated. Member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services offered through Jenny B. Cole Advisors Incorporated.
Hey, it's Dave Allen for Parmar Stores. And now that the warm weather months are here, you know where you need to be, your local Parmar store. Heading to the lake, the ball field, or your favorite picnic site, or just working around your place, Parmar has everything you'll need, from gas to grocery, snacks, and much, much more. Download the Parmar app and sign up for the Parmar Rewards Card. Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. If there's not a Parmar store near you now, there will be soon.
Wow, it feels like summer just started, but time sure is flying by, and before you know it, school will be back in session. This school year, Members Choice West Virginia can help you check off everything on your school shopping list with a back-to-school loan. Now through August 31st, you can get all the school supplies you need with a back-to-school loan of up to $1,500 with rates as low as 7.99% and up to 12 months to pay back. Apply today at 201 Ohio Avenue in Charleston or visit MCWV online at memberschoicewv.com. Loans are subject to credit approval. Additional restrictions may apply.
Bigley Piggly Wiggly on Spring Street has served 3 generations of shoppers since 1955 as the largest locally owned independent grocery store in the area. The Joseph family owners grew up here, so you know they're invested in the community. They provide the biggest variety of choice meats, the freshest produce, an in-house deli bakery, great wine selection, and more of your favorite brands. Every purchase gives you gasoline points so you can save at our pumps. Order online for pickup at BigleyPigglyWiggly.com. Bigley Piggly Wiggly on Spring Street. No one beats the pig.
16 minutes away from 10, the Dave Allen Show on 580 Live, brought to you in part by Hudson's Pizza. This month at your favorite Hudson's, you can order any regularly priced large 18-inch pizza and get a 2-liter Pepsi at no additional charge. Let's go directly to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, State Auditor and candidate for Attorney General J.B. McCuskey. How are you, sir? Good morning.
Dave, I'm awesome. How's everybody back home?
We're doing well. So have you been to Milwaukee before the convention?
I have.
Okay. I have not. It's the home of Miller Lite, which makes it an automatic bucket list stop for me. Just saying.
Yeah, good luck trying to order a Budweiser here.
The way it should be. Before we talk, in all seriousness, before we talk about the RNC, let's talk about what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania on Saturday. Where were you when you first learned of the attempt on the life of former President Trump and your reaction?
Yeah, I was sitting on my couch with my family. I got a text from my chief of staff who said, you got to turn the TV on. I think we were watching Monsters, Inc., perhaps. I don't remember exactly which cartoon movie we were watching. But, it took a minute to process, maybe more like a day. It didn't particularly seem real. But for me, I was in D.C. on 9/11. And it was the same kind of thing where you get into this bubble where you forget that true danger exists. And, as a public servant and somebody who, has made people mad enough to threaten me, it's really a sombering moment to realize that our country has really gotten to a place where this happens. As I continue to sort of think about it, more than anything, you can just sort of feel that America was going to come back together again, just like after 9/11. And so, there's a sort of a steely resolve to this country that I think these kind of events really sort of solidify.
Yesterday, Donald Trump announced that Ohio Senator and author J.D. Vance would be his pick for vice president. Your thoughts on J.D. Vance as the former president's choice?
So as I think what I would be considered as an elder millennial, it's great to have somebody from my generation in sort of the higher levels of government because there's a lot of things that happen to young families in this economy that people who are a little older may not understand, right? Like the cost of childcare is 5 times higher than it used to be, and the cost of groceries is 4 times higher, and there's all this pressure of social media, and raising kids is just a different thing. And I think having that perspective that close to the President of the United States is really going to be a wonderful thing, on top of the fact that he has a very unique understanding of the opioid crisis, as his book indicates, and the fact that he's Appalachia adjacent, meaning he's from close enough to hear that he understands our problems. I think it's going to be a huge benefit to the people of West Virginia.
So how are the things going at the convention? I mean, I watched a lot of the coverage yesterday. By the way, we have coverage nightly via ABC Radio Network News here. How are things going?
Oh, the energy is absolutely through the roof. When the president popped out last night, it was really something. And, people are really, really excited about the prospect of us getting back to where we were. And it's the first convention I've ever been to. It's really pretty wild how the size and scope of this kind of endeavor is beyond comprehension. But it's great. We're having an absolute ball, and our delegation is just, they're having so much fun.
And Governor Justice is, I think, going to speak at some point today, right?
Baby Dog was a hot topic of national reporters yesterday. Her arrival, I believe, is going to be met with some very, very significant happiness from thousands and thousands of people.
State Auditor and candidate for Attorney General J.B. McCuskey, I'll let you get back to your meetings and whatnot.
Hey, Dave, let me just say this.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
I think just getting back to what happened on Saturday, if you don't believe that God had a hand in ensuring that more people weren't harmed, particularly the president, it really is a remarkable world that we live in, that, it was 1 inch the other way, and we're talking about something really different. And so, as much as anything else, it's a moment to reflect on how fragile things are, and I hope everybody does that.
All right, JB, I appreciate you being here as always, man. Enjoy Milwaukee. We'll be looking for you on TV. You were on several times last night.
How'd I look?
Smashing, as always.
Oh, I appreciate that, Dave. I'm sure you're lying, but I appreciate it. Hey.
Thanks, man.
I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, thank you. The Dave Allen Show on 580 Live brought to you in part by Jute. For the best in security systems for both your home or business, talk to Jute of Taze Valley. Visit protectedbyjute.com. Let me do this. Coming up on tomorrow's show, Delegate Kayla Young is going. She hasn't been on the show in a while. She is going to be on the show tomorrow, as is our good friend from the Shape Shop, Millie Snyder, will be stopping by. Hoppy Kirchwell coming up at 10:06 this morning from the Encova Insurance Studios in the Dale Miller Building in Morgantown with Talkline. District 1 Congresswoman Carol Miller on the show today to talk about the Republicans' choice of J.D. Vance as the VP, and, of course, her reaction to the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. The RNC talk will continue. John Decker will be on the show today, plus West Virginia Republican Party Chair Matt Herridge from the RNC. Kevin D. Williamson, a national correspondent for the Dispatch, is on today, as is House Speaker Roger Henshaw and more, all coming up with Hoppy at 10:06. The Dave Allen Show on 580 Live, brought to you in part by Live Healthy West Virginia, presented by WVU Medicine. Live Healthy tackles pressing health issues, heart disease, diabetes, and more. It's a podcast offering insights into medical breakthroughs and preventative care, featuring WVU Medicine's expert physicians, aimed at fostering healthier lifestyles in and beyond the state. It's a valuable resource. Discover the latest episodes on WVMetronews.com under the podcast menu and start your journey towards better health today. Back after this on the Voice of Charleston, WCHS.
Brought to you by the Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses. Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses live to make life better for you and your family.
Looking to buy or sell U.S. coins or currency, or need an appraisal on a coin collection? The Coin Man in St. Albans has been established since 2009, and he's the area's expert in currency. Whether you're buying or selling coins and coin accessories, he's got you covered. But that's not all. He also deals in select antiques and glassware. Visit the Coin Man today at 2412 Kanawha Terrace in St. Albans and discover treasures that transcend time. The Coin Man, where every coin tells a story.
Stop what you're doing and listen to this. Your God-given freedoms are up for the taking, and those doing the taking are the same people who've sworn to defend your freedom. They think they can control the media, hide the truth, and force their delusions onto your family. You know what they can't take away? Self-reliance, peace of mind. Got water filtration? You should. A charged solar generator? You better. Emergency food on your shelf? Get it now from My Patriot Supply. My Patriot Supply is the most trusted name in survival, and for damn good reason, too. Go to MyPatriotSupply.com right now and save $200 on their best-selling 3-month emergency food kit. It delivers over 2,000 calories per day, plus sealed inside practically unpierceable packaging. It lasts up to 25 years. Oh, and did I mention it's delicious? Go to MyPatriotSupply.com and save $200 per kit. Includes fast and free shipping. That's MyPatriotSupply.com.
Sundays on 580 WCHS are a blend of inspiration, sports fervor, and intriguing tales. Kickoff is Let's Talk with Carl Lee, where athletics meets achievement in compelling conversations. Then dive into the Sunday Sports Line for the latest on local and WVU sports action. Hotline Weekend keeps you connected with the pulse of pop culture, followed by Animals Today. Cap off your evening with Weird Darkness, where eerie stories await. Only on 580 WCHS.
8 away from 10, the Dave Allen Show on 580 Live, presented in part by General Hardware of Winfield and Milton, General Lumber of Winfield. All projects big and small. Please shop locally. Visit GeneralHardwareWV.com. Text says, stop with the stupid hand of God stuff. A person was killed by the Butler shooter. I suppose God's hand directed the bullet right in to that person, says a texter. So let's back away from the convention and politics just for a moment. Talk about the Charleston City Council meeting last night. Aaron Parker, with a story posted at WVMetroNews.com. The whole talk of a couple of bills addressing first offense marijuana possession in the capital city. You know the story by now. Two ways of looking at this. The group Charleston Can't Wait got together a petition with around 2,000 signatures asking for a change in city code as it pertains to pot. On the other hand, the Ordinance and Rules Committee, who I think want the change too. We had Chad Robinson on the show last week, city councilman, and of course they caught up with him after the meeting last night. They want the change too, but they would prefer it go the route of council rather than maybe make it to the ballot. That's what I kind of gathered. So what happened last night basically was nothing because there was so much confusion about the discussion. Now, in the committee meeting, Police Chief Scott Dempsey said the lesser penalties could result in what he called a slippery slope. Quote, I would just caution you when you decriminalize any narcotic, end quote. Now, once the actual meeting began, a gentleman named Corey Zen, who has been one of the main players in all this, spoke, saying that the slippery slope that Chief Dempsey spoke of doesn't exist. Zen repeated the often talked about claims that pot is not a gateway drug. End quote, let me just say this. I'm not a scientist by any stretch of the imagination. I've always said, in my opinion, though, marijuana can be a gateway drug for some and not for others. I think it depends on the person, but that's just me. So what is the end result? It got sent back to the Rules and Ordinance Committee to be reviewed at another time. Aaron Parker has an in-depth story posted about it at WVMetroNews.com. And now we're going to focus on bears and coyotes, a proposed ordinance that would expand the city's urban deer hunt to include bears. That's me. Bears and coyotes. We'll have more on that. It's a problem. I'm not trying to make fun of it. It is a problem in some of the more hilly terrains of the city. We'll have more on that as it happens. The Dave Allen Show on 580 Live, brought to you part by Morgan & Morgan. If you're injured, hire Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. Back to the convention. I watched a lot of it yesterday, and by the way, again, I will mention that we are providing nightly coverage via the ABC radio network here on the WCHS network. I was working from home yesterday and through last night, and I had my TV on C-SPAN. When there are big events like this, if I'm not listening to the radio, I like kind of keeping up with things on C-SPAN because you get the raw, unedited footage without commercials, without commentary. I saw a lot of speeches last night. But my one takeaway, and Ryan, don't pull the plug on me here, and hear me out on this because it may be the most racist thing I'm ever going to say on the air. White people, stop dancing in public. It was embarrassing. My late father, who was a Sunday school superintendent, used to say, the Lord needs clappers too. It was almost as bad as the chick doing the anthem at the home run derby last night, but I digress. To the convention, I thought J.D. Vance was a solid pick for Trump. Number one, he's young, 39 years old, as J.B. McCuskey alluded to earlier, and the second youngest person, I think, to run on a presidential ticket. Now, I don't agree with a lot of his policies, and I'm removing myself from that to say I think J.D. Vance was a solid choice. Now, I know my liberal friends and listeners probably just drove off the road. But, I mean, Trump was not going to pick AOC, okay? I thought J.D. Vance was a good pick. And I got a text here about the movie and the book, Hillbilly Elegy. I'll get to that here in a couple of moments. I talked about it when I first saw it. I did not read the book. I did see the movie. And for people to say it was a horrible depiction of Appalachia, I would say it was a very accurate depiction of at least certain aspects of Appalachia. Many of us could certainly relate to it. And I remember watching the movie, my wife and I sitting down to watch the movie, and we said the same thing. We know these people. This is our people. Now, I saw some comments online. A good friend of mine who tends to be a little bit more liberal in Clarksburg last night, good friend of mine, though, Jason, said, this is a horrible depiction. It was not, it was pretty accurate for certain aspects. All right. And I will say this as someone who is not a Trump guy. Hear me out. Whomever is running the campaign at this point is doing a great job energizing the base without a lot of the scare tactics. Now, there was talk of illegal immigration, but most of the focus, and it all could change today, but most of the focus in day one was on the economy. And I've said it before, I think that's quite brilliant, and that's where they should focus, in my opinion. There were lots of people of color that spoke last night. The head of the Teamsters Union spoke. Who had that on their bingo card? That the head of the Teamsters Union would be speaking at the Republican National Convention. And then Trump comes in late last night, didn't speak that I know of anyway. Papaw had to go to bed. But he did come in last night with a bandage on his ear. Doesn't quite look as orange as what he has been in the past. And like he has been since the debate, he seemed a little bit more subdued. I call it like I see it. It was a good move on their part. All right. Text says it was mostly boomer white women. They're the ones that have no dance moves. All right. Well, we got to go. Remember when the Dems did the Macarena? That ensured I'd never be a Democrat, says the texter. All right. Got to go. Thanks to Senator Eric Tarr and also State Auditor and candidate for Attorney General J.B. McCuskey. Delegate Kayla Young on the show tomorrow, as well as Millie Snyder. I will see you tomorrow. Download the all-new Metro News TV app and listen to Hoppy coming up at 10:06. For my producer, Ryan Nicholson, we'll see you. Till then, have fun and love somebody.
WCHS AM, W243DRFM Charleston, and W283AQ Cross Lanes, a WVRC media station. We're proud to live here, too.